Hey everybody, welcome to Making Sense of It All with Jesse Stakes. I am very pleased to bring you Brandon Fischer. Brandon Fischer is the owner and creator of RareShot Golf. Brandon, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you so much for having me, Jesse. I'm very excited for the conversation today.
So, I got introduced to you through a mutual acquaintance, um, Gary Callis Jr. Shout out to you. Thank you very much. And he, like, when I saw your brand, one of the things that I thought was really cool is it's kind of like an intersection between like kind of golf culture, collectibles, design, innovation within an industry. It kind of, it really caught my attention. Um, and so I was pleased. I was really happy that you agreed to come on the show and agreed to, talk about what you're doing. And so thank you first. Before we even get started, I appreciate your time.
And Jesse, likewise, and thank you so much, Gary, for making the connection. Gary's been a great guy supporting us from early on. We actually just sent him out some samples as well as you, and excited for him to get his hands on them and start testing them out. Thank you so much for having me. I'm very excited to talk about what we're doing here, and I've listened to some of your other shows, so I'm very excited and I appreciate the opportunity.
All right, so let's jump right into it. So 3,000 foot level, what is Rare Shot Golf?
So RareShot is a new kind of golf product. So essentially what we're doing is turning golf balls into something collectible without sacrificing quality. So essentially we're working with one of the biggest golf ball manufacturers in the world. I can't get too specific on exactly who they make balls for as well, but I'll keep it short in saying that some of the best performing golf balls in the market are getting made right next to RareShots. So quality was the first concern of ours, making sure we made an extremely high quality golf ball that performs as good, if not better, than what golfers are already using. And then combining that with the mechanics I grew up on and many Gen Z and millennials did as well of collecting. So opening a pack of cards and not knowing what you're going to get. Most of the time you don't get that super rare, crazy thing you're looking for. But the beauty about what we're doing here at Rare Shot is no matter what, you're getting a great quality golf ball to go and play with on the course. And you might get lucky and pull something where only 100 golf balls were printed of a certain design out of over 100,000. And if you ever get a chance to look at any of our balls, you'll see that they're way different than anything else on the market. So we're trying to bring something super different and refreshing and exciting to a otherwise pretty stale market at the moment.
So I'd argue that it's not just Gen Z or I mean it's Gen Z, Gen X, Gen Y, Gen whatever. I mean since the advent of baseball cards, or other collectibles, people have been collecting things all the time. So I think you cross those generational barriers like no matter what. I think that this product is for everyone who's interested. I don't think there's an age band to it.
And I agree, Jesse. And the beauty about what we're doing here at Rare Shot compared to a pack of sports cards or Pokemon, or even recently you've heard the craze about Labubus, is that there's the baseline utility there. Golfers,
No
every
doubt.
time they go and play golf, they need a pack of golf balls. So you're making that same purchase, but as an added benefit, you're getting that excitement of opening up a pack and not knowing what you're going to find inside.
No doubt. So what was the moment that you realized that golf balls could be more than equipment? Like when was it that you realized they could be a collectible as well?
So it's a very funny story. I grew up in, my early middle school where, the popularity almost of kids in school were based on what shoes you're wearing, what clothes, what Pokemon cards you have. So from a very young age, I've always been obsessed with these manufactured scarcity products. That being said, as I moved into high school, I turned it into a business. I became a reseller. I was hosting tables at events. I had a very large eBay with 2,000 positive reviews selling collectibles. I generated over 20,000 followers on social media promoting and selling these products. And then once I got into college, I realized it's not as cool or not as trendy when you get into that older age to have, be the Pokemon card guy or the Jordan shoe guy.
I
So
don't know. Ask Logan Paul about that. I mean, he's pretty popular and he talks about it all the time.
and that definitely is shifting at the same time. It is becoming more socially acceptable. But as I got into college personally, I started to shift away from it and really got into my internships and wanted to be a high performing salesman. So I kind of strayed away from it. Long story short, I graduated out of college and it was right before my brother's wedding when my sister-in-law was showing me her Sonny's Angels collection. So if you haven't heard of them, it's essentially It's like a Labubu. It's a 2-inch PVC plastic figurine, and you open up a package and you don't know what you're gonna find. And she's explaining it to me, and she's like, most of the time you're not gonna find anything special, and that's what her wall was full of. But she's like, there's these super rare ones you could find, and they're selling for like $900 on eBay. And that's kind of where the light bulb went off for me. I was like, how could I apply these same mechanics for a adult hobby? So then I started thinking about it, and then at that time period, myself included, and a lot of my best friends who I grew up with, buying, selling, and trading these collectibles to, had suddenly become obsessed with golf. It was what everyone was talking about it, and at least in my circle, we had a lot more of the casual golfers, and so that's kind of where the idea came from. I was like, why couldn't we do this for golf balls? So I went home, started working on a pitch deck. I made some of these designs. I started sharing them out to everyone, and the response that I got was great. These are so cool. And then, the next 6 months following was just developing out the idea. Originally, it's going to be all crazy looking golf balls, and then I thought about it more, and that's how we landed on our common designs, which are going to make up the majority of the balls you'll find. And it's a long-winded way of saying that the inspiration came from seeing that, even adults are still into these products. They're bringing that thrill of the hunt into their adult lives, but there isn't really that many products tailored to their adult hobbies.
No, I think it's awesome. I mean, like I got it immediately when I saw it, and when it was first explained to me, it didn't take in much. I got it. I understood it completely. I think it's fantastic. You mentioned that about being a playable product, and I think that's really a huge key to this whole thing. You've got I think your tagline for your company is built to perform, designed to collect, right?
Yep, correct. And that stems from when people take a look at these balls, and if you share some pictures around to some people, a lot of people might make the assertion or think off the top of their head that this might be a novelty product. And something that's very important to us, and where the value comes from, at least in my opinion, is that these balls are playable. They're just as good as what you're already using, if not better, because we want golfers, even if they don't find that ultra rare ball that everyone's looking for, to still have a great set of golf balls to go and play with. So that's where the built to perform comes first. We want to get that idea across, and then of course design to collect is the overarching theme that builds the brand.
Yeah, well, and I think that this needs to be impressed. You're paying basically the same price that you would for a box of golf balls. It's not like you're not paying more for the chance to collect it. You're paying the same price, correct?
Absolutely. And so we're aiming for a target of $45 per dozen. And if you take a look around at your premium 3-layer urethane golf balls, the one of our competitors made in the same factory charges $55 a dozen for a very similar design and similar materials, and we're doing all of that printing work on top. So we're making sure that our product's affordable, very similar to what golfers are already paying. And then, like I said, all of that added excitement and benefit add on top as a additional, cherry on top.
No doubt. There's a huge potential secondary market with it.
Absolutely. And it is, you in the financial world, you know this better than anyone. It is crazy to look at what collectibles have become in the last few years. We just saw Logan Paul's personal card sell for 16.5 million. I believe the Pokemon secondary market alone. So this isn't Pokemon selling to consumers. This is me buying a Pokemon card and selling it to you, Jesse. That market's valued at $13 billion a year, is going back and forth, just people selling Pokemon cards to each other. It's
Please
crazy
repeat
to think
that.
about.
Please repeat that because I think it bears repeating.
$13 billion a year peer-to-peer exchange of just Pokemon cards. This isn't factoring in sports cards. This isn't factoring in the Supreme clothing and the Jordan shoes, where a hoodie's selling for $1,500 and there's 20,000 of those hoodies made. It is its own financial market existing without most people even knowing about it. It is crazy stuff.
100%. There's digital assets that are trading for multiples of what they cost people when they originally bought them, and they're not even. I hate to say it, they're not even real. They're they're things you can't even touch that people are assigning a value higher than face value to these things. So the collectible market is on fire right now. I'm going to ask this, and you kind of answered it already, but I think it's important. It's the what is the gap that you saw in the golf market that convinced you that this wasn't just a good idea, but this is a real business? This is something that you can make money doing.
So I would say to that is that what stood out to us is that the golf ball market is massive, but the consumer, from a consumer standpoint perspective, it's extremely stagnant. That being said, we noticed some of these more colorful balls become more popular. You know, some of my buddies in particular started using bright orange balls just because they could see them a little bit better. Um, Largely, though, every ball looks the same. There are some cool things happening at brands like Callaway and a few others where they're putting some micro designs on the ball, and people are really starting to like them. That being said, the gap that I saw especially is that the 18 to 32-year-old Gen Z and millennials are now the largest segment of golfers here in the US, over 6.5 million of them strong. Yet there wasn't a product made for what we know they love, you know, the thrill of the hunt and collecting. And that's like you just said, these markets are exploding because these used to be kids grew up obsessed with these products and now they're in adulthood and they're making big boy money and they're putting it into their passions, the things that they have loved. And as we've seen with Pokemon cards since 2001, they have outbeat the S&P 500 with over 3,800% return. So if you were loyal to your initial Pokemon cards or bought them throughout the years, you're sitting on a pretty good investment.
It's insane to hear that out loud, but you're 100% right. I'd like to segue into product innovation and design philosophy, kind of where you've been with that. Like one of the things that on your social media, on your Instagram, you had posted that you were out trying samples in Myrtle Beach, and yet you were blown away by the performance of the golf balls that you were using. So talk to me a little bit about your performance benchmarks and what matters most to you with the golf ball.
So I'll tell you, Jesse, coming up with this idea, once I got the pitch deck together and I had a general idea of how we could turn this vision into a reality, the first bridge that I had to cross was figuring out how to manufacture these. And you might think it's pretty straightforward, you know, find a good golf ball manufacturer who can print these designs and package them up for you and you can start selling them. But I literally spent 3 or 4 months nonstop every day reaching out to every golf ball manufacturer you could think of. I tried China, I tried India, I tried Vietnam, any country you could think of, every single golf ball manufacturer I reached out to all had the same answer where we can make a green golf ball and put some specs on it, or we can do an orange golf ball and do a swirl, but it can only be on this pole of the ball and it wouldn't be able to be these full color interactive designs like the designs you've seen from us. So it was a huge barrier of entry trying to figure out how are we going to print on these golf balls. So it has literally been over a year process of finding the manufacturer who can actually do the printing for us. And it was a huge concern because we had some samples come from China and Vietnam where they tried to do the printing and there would always either be a white gap or they would come and the design would already be peeling off before it even got to us. So it was a huge worry of mine constantly. I would stay up in bed all night thinking about it, worrying about it as I'm talking to investors or people, potential partnerships. And we would get samples in, and like I said, they'd peel, and I wouldn't want to hand them out. So it was a huge concern of mine where it's like we have these mock-ups and these golf ball designs that we love and we think are really cool, but it was a huge worry that these designs weren't going to hold up to play. Long story short, we found a printing partner here in the US, believe it or not, that is capable of doing the designs, printed them to us, sent them to us, and they were scratching off with your fingernail. But he said, don't worry about that. We'll put this protective urethane sealant layer on it and it'll protect the ball. Still worried for a few months in between sample batches, but we got this most recent batch in and he wasn't making anything up. We played rare shot golf balls the entire trip. We played over 8 rounds of golf all day with them, and the pattern held up way better than I ever could have dreamed of. Even on the full colored balls with 10 different colors going every other direction, there was minimal wear, no different than you'd see with any other golf ball on the market. So that was my biggest worry. Like I said previously in the podcast, the golf ball industry is a lot smaller than you'd think it is. There's only really a couple of large golf ball manufacturers who make a UCGA approved high quality golf ball. So that being said, I don't want to get into who else is
You don't
bringing
need
the
to.
same factory,
Yeah.
but that being said, we've seen our balls shot through the machines. We've tested the spin rates. Performance of our base quality golf ball hasn't been a concern because we made sure to work with the best of the best manufacturer we could. It ended up costing us more than we expected, but we would rather spend a little bit more to give golfers the best possible quality we could. And now that we got the printing piece figured out, we're pretty much set to go when it comes to manufacturing them.
Well, and I'm sure the more you do, the your price point is going to drop as well. As the popularity increases, that actually benefits you from a manufacturing standpoint.
Absolutely. And one thing that I've always said to the Rare Shot team and people we're working with is we don't want to be greedy. We're not trying to, milk every dollar out of people that we can. My goal is to give golfers a great product with that fun and excitement and not try to bleed every dollar out of their pocket possible. We had some people say, you could charge 55 or 60 a dozen because you're doing all of that other stuff, but we're making a comfortable of enough margin where with that price point we're shooting for now. So that's our goal, just to make the best possible product that we can and give it at a price that golfers are comfortable with.
So the first thing that pops in my head is like if you pull one of the rare balls, and let's say you hit it, let's say you hit it off the tee and it hits the cart path or it hits a tree or something, like you said, a normal golf ball is going to scratch. Normal ball, so there's going to be a blemish on it from that, as it should be. It's urethane. So if that happens on these, like on something, does it dig into the design? I'm just curious. Like, or is the design protected and you're just it's almost like kind of a scratch and a clear coat like on a car?
Yes, so you nailed it. So it's essentially if you were to hit any brand you could think of right now and
Yep.
if it hits concrete on, its logo, if it were to scratch any other ball's logo, it would probably scratch into the design. But we have a clear coat that goes over the design, so you would have to scratch completely through that, very thin piece of outer sealant urethane layer. That being said, from us playing them all day in Myrtle Beach, it was very minimal wear. It's no different than any other golf ball you're using. That being said, when you're playing with one of the balls that you can see on my screen here that are full color and you hit pavement, you might, or honestly you might not, depends how hard it hits and if it's scraping for a long duration of time. You'll see when you get your samples in, it's quite impressive how well they hold up.
So just for the audience and so they can hear it, can you walk us through what does it look like from the design? Like you created design of a golf ball and then all the way through that manufacturing and putting a final sleeve together. What does that whole process look like?
It's a quite intensive process. It's as easier or as hard as we want to make it when it comes to concepting the design. So we have a team of absolute killers when it comes to product design and being in the golf world. So we like to feed off of each other. When someone comes up with a cool design, they'll think about it when they're going to bed one night, send it to our group chat, and then we have a very talented graphic designer who kind of takes those thoughts or you can even use AI. Say, I want to make a golf ball that looks like this, and I'll spit out an image. And then our graphic designer actually breaks down that image and turns it into a flat pattern that we can then print onto the golf ball. So that being said, the manufacturing process works after, you make your packaging, you make your golf ball designs. We place that order from overseas at our factory, comes over to the US to our printing factory where it gets printed, put into the boxes and that final what would you call it, urethane or saran wrap goes over it and then it's a finished product. But it's essentially hitting 3 points, us coming up with the designs and packaging and all that graphic design work, going overseas to actually get the ball itself made in the dimensions that we want it to do, the compression, the spin rate, all of that good stuff, and then it gets sent to be finished at our printing manufacturer.
At first, I think about My Golf Spy and them doing their testing every year on multiple different, brands of golf balls. As far as the quality control piece of it, how do you maintain that? Is that something that's maintained by your partners at the factory, or is that something that you guys control? What does that look like?
So we don't have so much say in terms of the balls themselves overseas, but that being said, like I mentioned, it's that factory doesn't mess up. Otherwise, a lot of these billion-dollar golf ball brands would be sinking tomorrow because we're using the same guys as them. So the ball isn't really much of the concern. Once they come to the US to be printed, I'll actually be present in the factory overseeing the balls coming out of the printing process and they're very good at what they do already. I'm sure they don't need my oversight, but I want to be there and make sure that everything that we're putting out there that we're confident with and that we're happy. That being said, very similar to cards, and I'm sure you know about the grading, like a grade 7, 8, depending on how the printing and cutting of the cards goes. Not every ball is going to be 100% perfect. There will be some that are a little bit um off-centered compared to the most perfect ball, and I think that's a good piece of it. I'm actually happy that's how it works. So we maybe potentially rare shot golf balls will be graded someday, which is super exciting to think about.
Well, and blems are usually worth a little bit more a lot of the times when you talk about the card, the card industry. If it's a true factory blem, a lot of the times they end up creating a more scarce product because you don't have a lot of them, and they end up actually commanding more on the secondary market.
Absolutely, yeah. Some of the misprints and the miscut cards sell for a big premium, believe it or not. It's typically how the market goes is a certain population of each grade of a card. So let's say a grade 10 Charizard, there's only 3,000 of them in existence. A grade 10 Charizard in a different model, if there's 10,000, that the price typically reflects that. And there's only, maybe 10 or 20 miscuts in existence. So if you're a collector and you're all into scarcity, the less of a card, the better. Though those miscuts and misprints are actually a good thing, like you said.
No doubt. So talk to me a little bit about, kind of the scarcity and the rarity piece of this. You've got kind of common balls, uncommon balls, rare, and then high tiered type of collectibles. Can you break it down for my audience?
Yeah, absolutely. So starting off with our common design. So that's going to be your typical white golf ball with some colored speckles. There's 5 different variations, which are all different color palettes, and we tried to at least have one that would include everyone's favorite color. So we got most colors covered in our common designs. It's a white speckled ball. Every single pack is going to contain them. It's around 85% of the balls we produce are those typical common speckled designs. Moving up into our uncommon rarity tier, you have about a 1 in 4 3-pack sleeves to chance to find one of those. So every time you open a sleeve, you have a 1 in 4 chance. So that means every 12-pack, you're expected to find one of our uncommon designs, which is about 50-50 color. They look very out there and are attention grabbing. So you'll always find something decently cool. And there's 5 designs of those as well. So if you're looking to find any specific design, it's 5 times that 4. So it's about 1 in 20 3-packs. You'll find those. When you get up into our rare category, it's about 1 in 8 packs. You'll find one of our 5 rare designs. So if you want to find any specific rare design, you're looking at like a 1 in 72 chance every 3-pack. So you can do the math, divide that by 12. How many boxes would you have to open to find a specific design? And then our ultra rares, there's only 3 ultra rares for our first release, and the odds of finding one of those in a 3-pack is 1 in 72. So if you wanted to find any specific one of those 3, you're looking at about 1 in 200 packs to find one of those. And we modeled this pretty closely to Pokemon, who is the gold standard of creating that collectability and thrill of the hunt. So we tried to be very close and also make sure that, you open a pack, you're going to find at least something cool, but not overwhelmingly where every ball looks super wacky and out of this world. We wanted to have the common baseball be something that you wouldn't be too turned off by if you're a more traditional golfer. And then once you find one of those crazy ones, it's going to surprise you. You'd be like, "Oh, what is this?"
Right. So one of the questions that I kind of thought about was how do you keep that thrill of the hunt authentic and make sure that scarcity um stays real, essentially. Like, how do you make sure that that your team or that nobody prints, goes out, and if we say that this is 1 in 70, 1 in 72 boxes or whatever it is, like, how do you not just go out the back and print 2,000 more of them just to sell on eBay yourself?
Absolutely. And this was a big point of contention for us as well. We actually did find a printing partner overseas who did a similar quality print job, but based on where they were, we didn't trust them because we've seen it with Jordan shoes and with Pokemon cards. The factory ends at 10 p.m. and they start up the printers again and they're printing all night. And that's how we get, a shoe that there's only supposed to be 1,000 of them and there's 10,000 of them out there. That being said, that's why I'll be at the factory when all the printing is being done. And then on top of that, and this is where my experience being a reseller the last 15 years comes into play. I understand what collectors are looking for and what upsets collectors. Like if you have a specific Charizard card from 2008 and it's worth 3 grand and it's your prized possession, and Pokemon decides to reprint it this year, your value of your card just dropped 80% and you're having a bad day. That's why I'm gonna make sure as CEO and the one overseeing all of this that we'll never do any reprints. We'll be very particular and have a lot of oversight when it comes to all the packaging and the randomness of the designs and making sure all of those things that worries collectors about new products, that it is extremely taken care of. And even all of our samples that we print, we make sure to document exactly how many of each of those samples were print. And then on our RareShot website, we plan on adding an archive, which will show every single sample that's ever been made and the exact number and every single ball from production. So if you find a design, and it'll be on our app as well, you could take a picture of a ball you find and it'd bring you to the RareShot archive and show you that exact ball and how many of them were printed.
That's awesome. I feel like you guys are on top of it. I mean, you really have thought of a lot of things that are happening with this.
And yeah, like I said, I got out of college and I was getting into sales and I love selling, but it wasn't a something I was passionate about. The golf is something I'm extremely passionate about, and same with collectibles. So it's combining all of those years of experience to making, in my opinion, the most perfect and best collectible product I can with all of those years behind me.
No doubt. Do you have any fear about like the larger manufacturers, like as far as the Titleists, the Callaways, the TaylorMades, feeling like there's like a head-to-head competition, or feeling like, hey, we can, if they decide they see a little success with this and they say we can do this better? Or do you feel like you're niche enough, or you have a unique enough product to where you can stand in one side of the market while they're fulfilling their obligations to the other side of the market?
So obviously this is a big concern, and we're currently in a fundraising round right now, and a lot of investors we talk to, that's their first question. And yes, it is concerning. That being said, I'm not overly worried about it myself. First off, a big brand like Callaway or Titleist is built on legacy, and it would be a big risk for them to step out and do something this outside of what their customers are used to and that legacy they've built for themselves. The other element of it is the printing of the designs. Like I told you, it's an extremely complicated process, which out of months and months of work and talking to everyone in the industry I could, no one could point me in the direction to figure out how to have these balls printed. So either they would have to massively disrupt their supply chain and how they manufacture their golf balls to make it work. And they have a lot more overhead and it's a lot more risky for them to make a big change like that. Or they would have to invest a lot of millions of dollars into making a similar printing technique. And that's why for us, it's about being first to market. And our goal here is to start production within the next month or two. So it'd be really hard to follow on after us. That being said, take a look at Pokemon. Pokemon launched in 1996 and had massive success, and they had droves of people following behind them trying to do the same thing that don't represent a percent of what Pokemon is. And it's about being that legitimacy of doing it from the start, doing it right, not just having some overly paid CEO come in and say create a collectible golf ball, being actually in the industry the last 15 years hands on and understanding these products better than I think most, and applying it the best we can and creating a product that is great. And sure, Callaway could come out with something similar afterwards, but they would just be a copycat at that point. So long
That's
story,
right.
it's a worry, but I'm not overly worried about it.
No doubt. So people are interested. They listen to this. Like, where are you going to be available once you guys bring this to market? Where is it going to be available for people to buy?
So starting out, we're primarily focusing on direct to consumer sales through our website. That being said, we do have some pre-orders from local golf course pro shops, and we've had interest from retailers. But the issue with that is starting out as small as we are, like I said earlier, our margins aren't super high. We're not making a ton per box sold. So if we wanted to start selling to retailers and they want to make a good margin as well, we would have to boost our price up. So I would rather sell it direct to the consumer so we could give them the best price possible. And like you said, Jesse, once we're able to get some success, get through a few releases and have the money to produce more, our price will come down and that will allow us to start to break into retail more. So starting out, you can find us on our website, but later on, we'll definitely expand in the pro shops as well as some of the big golf retailers.
Yeah, I can remember being a kid sitting there in card shops opening boxes of baseball cards, and it's like I can picture somebody like sitting at the counter at a golf shop, sitting there flipping through their, like opening each sleeve of golf balls and dumping them out to see what they get.
Absolutely, and I envision that as well. It's funny, we've had really good success with approaching golf course pro shops who we have relationships with, and it's either one or two answers. It's I see it right away, like you have Jesse, we want it, sign us up for as many boxes we can get, or the whole complete other side is 55-year-old pro's just been stuck in his ways for a long time, and he's like, no way we would ever touch these things. So it's very interesting to see. I think as things develop and we start hit in the market and do as well as I think we will, those opportunities will expand and we will begin in the pro shops as soon as possible. That is for sure.
What's the most surprising piece of feedback that you've gotten from somebody? Like I know you've said you've had different people give you feedback, but what is the most surprising thing that you've heard from anybody?
I would say the most surprising for me is, like I was just mentioning to you, sometimes the older crowd has a very negative response to the Rare Shot product. But what has been really surprising is some of the older guys like seeing it right away and loving it, like having more passion about it than even, people my age. And that's just been really surprising. And like you said at the start of the podcast here, it's not sure the Gen Z and millennials might be the bulk of the consumers, but it's really a product for everyone. If you think the designs are cool and it's a great quality ball, it is a product that anyone can buy and enjoy.
Yeah, absolutely. I would imagine that social media is going to be a big driver for this, where as you're promoting it, that's going to be a big spot where people are going to be able to kind of see what each other gets, kind of have a community where they're tagging you guys on it, and that way everyone can kind of see the cool, unique designs that are going to be pulled out of different packs.
Absolutely. And that's a good point as well, Jesse. And something that differentiates us is that a lot of traditional golf ball products do your traditional, sponsoring a pro or spending a ton of money to be at these big tournaments or so on and so forth. And a different approach that we're taking is we want to use those marketing dollars on social media influencers, the most and highest converting demographic medium for our demographic. So we want to give back to these people who work hard making great content all the time and give them a super cool product that they can show off to their fans. And RareShot is sort of built for virality on social media. You're flipping through Instagram, used to seeing white golf balls all the time. Once you see one of these crazy RareShot balls, it'll definitely grab your attention.
No doubt. Well, and that's where golf is growing right now. I mean, it's proven that YouTube golf and social media is what's driving the sport right now from a consumer standpoint, as far as what people are watching the most of, what people are consuming, especially in that age range that you're discussing.
Absolutely. And I can't say too much, but we have a collaboration in the talks with one of the bigger golf YouTubers out there that I'm super excited about once we are ready to launch in the market.
Well, we will look forward to it with bated breath for when you're ready to announce it.
Absolutely.
So what do you see as the future? Just as far as your kind of your shot 5 years from now or 10 years from now, whatever you pick it. But I mean, what do you see Rare Shot becoming?
The vision for me, like I said, I grew up with these sort of a lot of these collectible brands inspired me, right? So Pokemon when it comes to opening the packs and not knowing what you're gonna get. And then I'd say long term, the vision for me is to be like the Supreme of golf. I'm not sure if you're familiar with Supreme, but they make a lot of different products, and I kind of want that to be what Rare Shot evolves into, more so of a lifestyle brand. We're starting with the golf balls, but definitely we want to get some merch out there. We want to start making some clubs, if that makes sense to us as well. Through all of these talks with all these different manufacturers, we have realized that the golf club products are a lot higher margin of a product that you might expect it to be. So I would love to go out there and do the same thing that we're doing with the golf balls, but for golf clubs and give them to consumers at a very affordable price at that same quality point, like we're doing here with Rare Shot.
I think it's fantastic. Before we wrap this up, I wanted to ask you three questions, just as far as, just things about yourself that people can learn from just kind of your experiences. Is that all right with you?
Yeah, absolutely.
So, one lesson that you would have liked to have learned that you wish you knew earlier starting Rare Shot.
That persistence is key, and bumps in the road don't damage you. They only damage you as much as you let them damage you. It's really anything in terms of starting a startup or a new business is about persistence. There are so many times I can think about where I wanted to quit or almost did, and Rare Shot wouldn't exist if I did. So a lesson I wish I knew from the start is to not stress about being rejected from time to time and just, stay on that line and keep going.
That's awesome. What advice would you give to creators trying to build something into a traditional market like golf?
I would say try not to replicate what other people are doing. Try to put your own personality out there. There are billions of people on this planet, and everyone likes something different. Just because one guy with 3 million followers is doing good doesn't mean you have to replicate what he does. Bring your own personality into it, and I'm sure there will be a group of people out there who would love to watch.
I like it. I always tell people be a pink car with purple wheels in a world full of white cars.
Absolutely. That's what my teachers in high school always used to tell me. You're driving the red car. That's why we keep thinking it's you.
That's right. So, and then the last thing, and I know we kind of talked about this before, but if my listeners hear one thing out of this whole podcast, what do you think that they should take away from your story?
I would say be open to golf changing. There's this huge group of younger golfers coming into the market that aren't your traditional uh, golf persona, and it's not a bad thing. Golf is shifting. It's bringing a lot of economy into the sport. Just because casual players want to play a certain way and it might not be what you love, I wouldn't oppose it. It's a really good thing for the golf community. And just because you like golf being a certain way and like playing a certain way doesn't mean you have to change or reflect those values onto other people. Welcome in these new people to golf and allow it to, keep growing the economy of the golf world, build us new courses and make it a more inclusive sport for everybody.
I love it. I love it. The sport of golf is always saying it wants to grow. They want to grow the game, and that's how you grow the game. You grow it through introducing it to new audiences, to people who haven't been a part of it throughout their whole lives, or people who are just getting introduced to it as they're young, and you make it fun. You make it something that they want to do, not something that they have to conform to. I like it.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, I've really enjoyed this conversation. If people have as well and they would like to learn more about Rare Shot, and two ways, whether they want to know about the brand and they want to just learn about getting involved with it from a consumer standpoint, or as you mentioned, you have investments that are coming in right now. You guys are raising money and people are becoming a part of this. And if people listen to this and they think that it's something that they would have interest in from an investment standpoint as well, what's the best way for them to get a hold of you?
So I would say, in terms of wanting to learn more about the company and the progress we're making day to day, check out our LinkedIn account, which is RareShot Golf. Very simple, Rare Shot Golf. And then if you want to see more of the product and people hitting the balls, I'd say go to our Instagram account, rareshot.us. And then if you're more so interested in the investment sort of things, either our LinkedIn account, RareShot Golf, or I would say reach out to me directly on LinkedIn at Brandon Fischer, and then Fisher spelled Fischer.
Awesome. We will make sure that we have links at the bottom of this video when it comes out and everywhere that we put the podcast. Brandon, I commend you. I think it's a fantastic idea. I think it's an awesome brand that you're getting started with, and I look forward to us continuing our conversations, and hopefully this is just the start of something fun.
Likewise, Jesse. I hope someday we'll be able to hit the links together.
Absolutely. We'll catch you down the road.
All right. Thank you so much, Jesse.